Season 18, it's episode 3. It's me and him. Divi 2 is where we're up to in the county championship.
Divi 2.
What a chase from Kent. To knock off Middlesex and keep them bottom of the country to sort of reinforce the bad time of it they've been having. Middlesex all out 222. Before the game, Kent lost. Remember I mentioned Keith Dudgeon last week, the South African seamer?
Hi, Dudgeon.
Who picked up 7th.
I was reading about him. Neil Manthorpe was writing about him during the week on his blog as well, which is always a good read.
He's done his knee. And so much so that he's going home.
No.
He's going home.
No. Oh, fuck.
Everyone together as one when that statement came out from Kent. Like, don't do that. We all wanted to watch this guy for 2 months.
No.
Anyway, so he's out entirely. We've got to wait for
like bad, like full Rico.
He's finished for the season. So
but a year-long job, like a Daniel Mental job, or
no, not a Gary Buckenara. Going to need a complete knee reconstruction. Could have been Champions version of that song still on YouTube. Right, so no, Keith Dudgeon out, which meant, well, I guess Wes Agar will be flown over earlier. He was going to replace him, Big Wes. From the celebrations of the Shield. Anyway, so Middlesex 222, Kent bowled well, Nathan Gilchrist and Cashew Valley took 3 for us. Then Kent make 218 rather. So they're behind in the game. Kind of saved by Harry Finch and Grant Stewart. Grant Stewart down the list, Italian heartthrob. He's one of those cricketers who have been sourced via
He's
passport.
eligible.
He's been playing. He's going to be playing under Joe Burns' captaincy at the World Cup qualifier. Good to see Blake Cullen taking a 4-for for Middlesex.
Classically Italian name, Grant Stewart. Yeah, Grant, Italian via Edinburgh.
If to not typecast, but he's got Italian looks about him. He's got that beautiful dark hair and thick beard and that type of thing. Anyway.
Yeah. He rides a Vespa between, up and down the wicket.
That's it. Well, I watched Blake Cullen, who I mentioned before, taking 4 wickets. I watched his debut with Izzy Westbury in a paddock during the pandemic. So I've got a soft spot for the young quick from Middlesex who picked up 4. They did well to get 311 in the second innings as well. Half century for Eskenazi, 75 for Ben Geddes. Good story this, having moved from Surrey to Middlesex, across the river. We want to see him getting games and making runs, so well played there. But set 316, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Kent have mowed it down, 2 down in 64 overs. What a win. Ben Compton.
Wow.
Ben Compton, 124 not from 196. And in walks Tawanda Mayeye at number 4. Remember the name. Watch the highlights. 125 not from 127. He looks $1 billion, this guy. Former Zimbabwean underage player. His story is a beauty. We are hoping to tell it soon on the Final Word in depth, so I won't give it all away. He's England qualified soon, and everyone just keeps saying his name over and over again, Tawanda Mayeye. So he'll be playing Test cricket as soon as he's kind of eligible, I reckon, whenever that is, the young man. So watch this space on that. Middlesex had no answer for him. And Kent, having dropped to Division 2, have started well with this win. So yeah, there's a nice little story there with Mayeye starting the season in blistering form.
Yeah, I mean it's the qualification's a little rubbery, isn't it? Because it'll depend on when paperwork comes through or something like that. But I'm going to note that over the course of this show, you've picked about 15 people who are all going to be playing Test cricket for England.
It's true.
So it's a crowd, and none of them are the ones who are currently doing it.
And that's why
it's going to be a crowded squad.
And that's why this time of year is terrific. 16th of April, like there is a cast of thousands. It happens a little bit in Australian cricket, but more in England, right? 18 counties, 9 games going on concurrently, noteworthy performances get you at only this time of year.
John Simpson.
If you do it,
John Simpson will be playing for England. John Simpson can be my Jimmy Pearson, my wicket keeper who I want to be picked, who probably never will be.
He's probably the one guy I guarantee won't be playing for England out of all of those that I've referred to. But Mayeye and McKinney have very much youth on their side. Let's go to Grace Road, where Leicestershire, having won last week, and are hosting Derbyshire, who also won last week. So 2 teams that, are seen as smaller, poorer counties, both top of the table, I suppose, into round 2, if you want to use that jargon so early. But Leicestershire, 484, Rayan Ahmed opening the batting on day 1. Yes, that's right. England leg spinner Rayan Ahmed opening the batting for Leicestershire. Pete Hanscom's captain. He'll have a view on why. I think he was night watchman the previous week and got runs, and they're like, well, fuck it. You can open in the next game. It's like junior cricket stuff. But it kind of works, and I'll explain why later on. Hanscom a 50, Logan Van Beek 82 not out, all inside 110 overs. So they hoover up all the batting points. which is not for nothing when you're in Division 2. 450 is where they tap out. Derbyshire 393, also inside their 110. So they got most of their batting points, and Leicestershire took all of the wickets. So Leicestershire are having a strong draw at this point. Martin Anderson for Derbyshire, new club, also moved from Middlesex.
There you go.
101. First 100 for his new club. There you go. Theme here.
Best thing you can do.
Theme emerging. Caleb Jewell, who's a great signing for Derbyshire. That's his third 50 on the trot, 83 after twin 50s in his first game. And then Rayan Ahmed opens again in the second innings to push the game forward. 77 from 59. So they're Baz bowling at Grace Road. I mentioned before the 484 in 110 overs, and in the second innings having a massive crack. They set Derby 449. In the end, unfortunately, time ran out in 80 overs. They got to 305 for 4. Another contribution from Wayne Madsen, the 41-year-old captain, made 96. He's got an incredible record against Leicestershire. Jewell, 73, so 450s on the trot to start his career with Derbyshire. So, with all of those points, they remain top of the table in Division 2, Leicestershire. So they're playing to a plan. The Jeff Lemon Cup was a draw, I'm sorry to say. Glamorgan, Gloucestershire, less interesting than the previous draw. Gloss got 546. But the storyline here, Cameron Bancroft, 163, good on him. Keeps making runs and keeps, I suppose, advancing the case that he could have another career for Australia. Ollie Price got 101. Too many Ollies. Please remove 4. Indeed, there were 6 Toms in the Sussex game. We got Sampson asked about this. There have been instances where there have been 9 Johns in one team and 9 Muhammads, which is probably more predictable. But yeah, I asked what Christian name is the most named, and Samo gave a droll answer about Muhammad not being quite a Christian name, which I appreciated on commentary. So anyway.
Yeah, well, Norcross and I were doing this on story time about the most common surnames in Test cricket being Smith and Muhammad.
Yeah, that's right.
Which they are. I counted them up, and they're like 30-something each.
Glamorgan 385. Ingram, as always, with runs 103 for the South African. Glamorgan followed on, and Ingram got 77, not more, but they were never in strife there. They got to 288 for 4. So this week, Glamorgan get to visit Lords to play Middlesex, and you can watch Colin Ingram do his thing if you wish. And Buffs boys, Northants, drew against the Jimulus Lancashire at Old Trafford. Northants 496. Jeff, you'll remember a veteran from the 2015 game at Northants that we covered and talk about way too often, Saif Dabe. He was a 16-year-old then. He's still going strong. A decade later, made 116 and top scored for Northamptonshire. Jimmy's going to be back soon. Like, they're struggling for wickets, Lank, so they probably need Jim, I would argue. But yeah, he's going to be back sooner than they might have suggested. I heard a whisper that he's going to be bowling properly this week. He was bowling off 5 paces this week. So, that'll be an important thing when it happens. Lancashire were way behind. They were all out for 228. Keaton Jennings got 96, our guy. Didn't quite complete the ton, but still kept things together. That was quite important. Following on, they got 351 for 9. Bohannon, 155, a bit of a forgotten man up there in Lancashire, but still got time on his side. Jennings, 49 more. Marcus Harris made 50 and 43. Mentioned the comparison to Chris Rogers last week. That was very Bucky-esque. When he didn't make big runs, he'd still make some runs. And that's what we're seeing from Harris early season at Lancs after a century at Lords. And then, 8 wickets across the match for Calvin Harrison for Northants. So a bit to work with there for Buff there with Leicestershire and Kent, the top 2 at the moment. And this weekend, Lancs hosting Leicestershire, which will be a big game. Middlesex have got Glamorgan, Kent have got Gloucestershire, and Derbyshire are hosting Darren Lehman's Northants. And that is our county wrap. Done.
That is it. That is all of the things that happened. There's been plenty of other cricket going on. The Women's World Cup qualifier is mostly done. Bangladesh and Pakistan are at the top of that table at the moment. Ireland and West Indies both playing poorly. They've only got 1 win apiece so far, so not competing. Scotland have been reasonably strong. They've got a couple of wins. But
they had a big opportunity yesterday, Scotland, like they beat Bangladesh and they're back in the mix for a top 2 spot. Remember, this is huge. So much riding on this tournament in Pakistan, right? The top 2 go through to the 50 over World Cup. Pakistan hosting Bangladesh, Scotland, Ireland, Windies, Thailand. There are 4 full members there, plus Scotland, who are near enough a full member as far as their rankings are concerned, and Thailand, who were on track to make the last 50 over World Cup before COVID intervened. So it's a really strong tournament. And look, conditions are suiting Pakistan, who've already qualified, already gotten through, and Bangladesh. Pakistan, due to the way their draw breaks, they can't be taken out of the top two. But like Scotland could have chased 250 yesterday against Bangladesh and given themselves a sniff, but they've missed out. Ireland have lost 3 times. There's been some, they're in a bit of a transition phase. They're losing Ed Joyce as their coach, who's done the job since 2019. Nathan Johns, Joey, my teammate and colleague, has been writing about this every day and sort of documenting how and why things have gone wrong. I can recommend a Substack on Irish cricket. It's as good as anything going around. And Hayley Matthews, the Windies, aren't going to make the World Cup. They've won 1 and lost 2. And that's despite the fact that Matthews in one game made a ton and took a forfeit. So I know that the Windies this isn't the first time they've missed a World Cup. It's not without precedent for them to find themselves in situations like this. But they did make the semi-finals of the T20 World Cup only, 6 or 7 months ago, to now be 5th out of 6 teams trying to qualify for the next World Cup. That speaks volumes about where they're at, and that's not a good story. And relying so heavily on one player is totally out of kilter with where they should be right now.
Yeah, I mean, she's elevated herself in the last couple of years and has fulfilled that superstar potential that we saw when she was 16, but West Indies have just continued going the other way as a side. It just hasn't worked. The England A, Australia A women's tour has been going on. This is quite fun, actually. So given that England had such an awful senior tour, they managed to get a win in one of the T20s. Then they won the final ODI after we recorded the show last week by 1 wicket. They were chasing 196. Ella Hayward, who was more used as an off spinner when she was playing Big Bash a few years ago as a teenager, but she's been shifting gears. She made 78 with the bat, but they managed to get it. So Paige Schofield, who's one of your faves, one of the ones you're invested in, one of the Charlotte Edwards intake, made 83, and a little Ethan Bamber, like Grace Potts, won it for him, 9 down, smashed a boundary with a couple of balls to go. So that was their second win on the tour, and then they gave a good showing in the unofficial test match. Yeah,
and Grace Potts took 3 for as well. She's been in those England squads. She's a gun. So and Paige Schofield is the type of player who has had so much domestic experience. Right, she's probably played 200 games for the Vipers and across domestic cricket now. In the unofficial test, she takes it to another level again. So this is a cracking game. Talked about that final over thriller at Durham. This is just as good. So the Australia A team make 343. Rachel Treneman, top scores with 73. And Charli Knott and Nicole Fulton make 52 apiece. We'll come back to both of those in a moment. Izzy Wong's probably the story of the day on day one, though. 25 overs, 6 maidens, 5 for 63. We hope she's back in business. She's been in the hinterland for a while now, Izzy Wong, having played a lot for England, then completely lost her way. But someone who bowls quickly and has lots of great skills, especially her outswinger. So I hope this is the turning point for her. England A then get 407. Alice Capsey and Paige Schofield both get centuries, 108 and 164 respectively, both playing for Surrey this year in the Tier 1. So that's a good sign for the team at the Oval. Tess Flintoff picked up 3 for Australia A. Then Australia A set the game up. 353 for 6 declared. Charli Knott, the captain, 50 in the first dig, 123 in the second dig. Treneman gets another 73, the score she got in the previous innings. That wouldn't have happened often in first-class cricket, 2 73s. And Fulton, after getting 52 in the first dig, got 54 not in the second. So the same 3 have made the bulk of the runs. They set England 290 in 64 overs, and they have a crack. And why wouldn't they? I mean, there's nothing to lose in a situation like this. And they get themselves, with 6 overs to go, with Schofield still there at this point, to 2 for 5. So that is genuinely within striking distance. Yeah, more than a runner ball.
38 off 36, though. You could do that.
Totally,
Should
right?
do that.
And Schofield's there has made 100 in the first dig with heaps of experience. At that point, they've lost Holly Armitage, who was the backbone of the chase, who made 75. But then in the fading light, there's a collapse. And the catalyst for it, there's a series of Australia A bowlers, Lauren Cheadle, Flintoff, but it really comes down to the final over. As wickets are falling, 1 over left, fading light. They can't bowl a seamer because it's too dark. Charli Knott, the captain, takes the ball. And with the second ball of the last over of the match, by this stage the run's out of the equation, she bowls an off break that turns square, hits the top of off stump, scenes, limbs everywhere. Australia win with 4 balls to spare. Again, could have easily been a tie had England A kept going in that direction. Could have been a draw 9 down, but instead they get it done in the final over. Charli Knott, the winning wicket, a couple in the final innings after making a century and a 50 earlier in the match. And she's made runs in the T20s and the one-dayers as well. You can guarantee she's going to be a feature of that senior team. I don't know, as soon as the next Ashes summer potentially, or maybe not Ashes summer because that's still 2027, a couple of years away. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, she is there in thereabouts.
Yeah, she was in that sort of Hayward mould of being a bit fringe in both disciplines for Brisbane when she came through. It'd be 4 years ago now. So I think during the COVID WBBLs when I remember seeing Charli Knott go around for the first time. But you know, the way that she's stepped into this leadership position and bossed that game is extraordinary. If it wasn't already going to be the case, that's put the stamp on her papers that she'll be moving up soon, I think.
I enjoyed Charlotte Edwards doing media last week, basically saying you can forget about all that hearts and minds stuff. Don't care, just want to win. It's very, very Lottie. She wasn't completely disparaging of the former regime, but, you know, you read between the lines. She knows what she wants. Some big signings in England over the week too for Tier 1. So Elise Perry's going to play with Hampshire. They did a great job on social media amplifying that. That was all over the news over here for a few hours. And she'll only play 8 games in July. But, you know, it's proof that they can recruit the biggest names for the first tier. Susie Bates will be Durham's first ever full-time international pro. So, of course, Bates has played loads of seasons in England, but she'll be here as a 37-year-old playing for Durham. Alana King will be in the blast for Lancashire. So, you know, that all starts a week from now. The 23rd of April is the first round of games. So more on that tournament then.
I'm going to make way because you are going to talk to Ben Jones. You're doing Whamageddon. Can you get through the IPL without seeing a ball of the IPL? I still also haven't seen a ball of the IPL. I know some people are unhappy that we say this. We're just being honest.
I'm not even
being honest. We can't pretend that we're watching it because there is a lot of cricket. You may have noticed this. It happens around the world. And so there are times when we have to say some of it we can't watch. We can't do all of it. We can't do everything.
Got to say, Jeff, I'm not even trying anymore. Last week, or maybe the week before, I had to, you know, kind of move down my feed to miss balls being bowled. But this week, didn't penetrate the mainframe at all. In the pub after hours, watching the golf very happily. There was no cricket competing with that. In fact, I tell a lie. I walked in and saw a ball with a PSL on opening night. So I've seen one PSL ball, and not that I'm trying to avoid that in quite the same dedicated way because that would ruin the thing. We'll return in just a moment with Ben Jones, and we'll hear from Jeff when he'll be with me on Storytime, which will come out over the weekend with another episode slotted in between.